Let's bring in the Moose. He's at the Brand Center in Regina. Even John Kirby, I think, is trying to get out of under my skin, Moose. And it's Al Cameron. Okay, he's been trying to get under my skin, and I've just been laughing at it. So we've been talking NFL trade. What do you got? NHL trade deadline, football Friday. What, Al? What are you laughing? What are you wowing about?
You didn't know I was in the chair, Rod. I mean, this is why you should be here.
No, he told me.
Florida. That Rod Pedersen is not
I know.
Montana's Brier in Regina. That's some shameful stuff right there, my friend.
Hey, talk to the officials. I had commitments, you know that. But listen, I apologize. Clark did tell me it's bad. I had my mind on what our viewers are saying, and that's on me.
Understood.
Alan, before we get to the really big announcement that you guys made this morning officially after being slipped the other night in the patch, it is playoff time today. Kudos to you for staying awake this long, because I think about you a lot at these events and the days you must be putting in.
Wait a minute.
To get to today. Yeah, what?
Yeah. Well, listen, and it comes right on the heels of the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, right? So it's been an intense 2 or 3 weeks, Rod. But you know what? Days like today where I see the fans coming in, it's going to be pretty close to a full house here at the Brand Center, especially with Saskatchewan playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. A lot of fun.
Well, you're a former newspaper guy. I won't say an old newspaper guy, but you love a story. And with the Territories, Jamie Cooey getting in and Mike McEwen, everybody's holding their breath. He got in. There's some great stories today and this weekend.
Yeah, it's sort of gift wrapped, right? So all those in fact, it's been that kind of a week full of stories. Like, we always knew that there was going to be a Cooey in the playoffs. I don't think we expected that particular Cooey, right? But he's full value. That team has played exceedingly well. But of course, the story of the week has been Team Saskatchewan. And Rod, you know as well as I do that those numbers 1980 kind of stand out to everybody. Rick Polk being the last Saskatchewan team to win this Brier. And listen, Mike McEwen is in his zone. We've talked about it internally with our high performance team. They see Mike just kind of in one of those zones that you love to be in. It's like a guy who can't miss a putt at Augusta. That's what Mike has been doing here this week. And listen, there's no reason to believe he's not going to give these fans a lot to cheer about over the next 3 days.
Yeah, many, many stories. I mean, would you be willing to broach the subject of, is this the best field ever for a Brier? Because others have. It's certainly up there.
It's in the conversation. It's in the conversation. But what's good about this field, too, is you've got all the greatest names in the sport right here. But you've had some new faces that have made an impact, right? Aaron Sluchinski's team out of Alberta has been great. Matthew Manuel's team out of Nova Scotia. Young teams that are on the rise. And that's kind of one of the byproducts of this 18-team format that we've brought in is, yes, you get those top teams, the Dunstones, the Cooeys, the McEwens, the Gushus. You get them all in the field, but you also give an opening to younger teams that are trying to get that experience, and they're coming here and getting reps, and that you can't understate how important that is, not only for today, but also as we look down the road and look to those 2030 Winter Olympics, the 2034 Winter Olympics. Some of the teams that we're seeing here today will be in that mix, and it's important to give those young teams the reps under the bright lights at the Montana's Brier.
Well, AC, I want to thank you for whatever role you might have had in the partnership we've had with Curling Canada, because these interviews have been fantastic, man. They've actually gone better than I thought that they would, and that's because of the curlers. They're smart. Well, they've got personality. And Mike, yeah, what?
Well, Rod, you and I both covered a lot of curling and a lot of CFL football, and I think many of the players in both of these sports share the similar traits, right? The filters aren't necessarily there like you see in the NHL or the NFL. They're great unfiltered interviews. They've got some life experience. They're great talkers, and they have a perspective on life and on sports, and that's what makes the stories so much more compelling, and that's why fans really do love these athletes, and it's kind of cool seeing it play out here in Regina.
You know what? And when you say no filters, for sure. I mean, we've done all those same interviews, but these guys are also a little more thoughtful and, if I may, pensive, which is the same word in French.
Yeah.
But like with, like Mike McEwen said, he was born in 1980. This drought doesn't mean anything to him, really. Has he curled like that all week? That it just act like he hasn't shown signs of stress or pressure from the fan base?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, Rod. And the other advantage you might say that he's had is he hasn't been subject to all those questions that other Saskatchewan skips, Steve Laycock, Pat Simmons, etc., over the last 10, 15 years, 44 years, have been asked. Why has it taken so long? He hasn't had to deal with those questions. And yeah, he's had them once or twice this week, but it isn't weighing on him as a burden as it might have on other Saskatchewan skips at the Brier in the past 20 years.
Yeah, and of course, as we look at today's playoff rundown, Ben Hebert is out there with Team Botcher against Mike McEwen, and it just boils Ben's blood. You're in Calgary, aren't you? Are you still in Calgary, Al? Are you
I
still
live
there?
in Kamloops, actually. So, no, I'm in Kamloops.
Oh, you're in Kamloops? Okay. Well, it's just I see Benny all the time in Calgary, and it drives him nuts that he's not repping Saskatchewan. But that's his own fault. There's nothing he would like more than to spoil the party today. That's a fact. So, listen, it's the truth, man. He would say it.
Absolutely.
He basically does.
Yep.
Right?
Well, listen, the rules allow him to rep Saskatchewan anytime he wants. I'm just saying. So he knows he finds the best possible situation for Ben Hebert. Right now, the best possible situation for Ben Hebert is with Team Brendan Botcher. Is it going to be like that in 5 years? We'll see.
Speaking of no filter, that would be Ben Hebert 101. And before we do talk about the Worlds in 2025, let me just ask you this, because we've talked about it with Matt Dunstone and Caitlin Schneider and all these guys through our interviews. This rule that you can have one member of your team not in the province, it's never really been the skip before, but now it is. It's kind of blown people's minds. But the curlers are pretty happy with it. And I think once the fans get used to it, maybe they'll like it too. What do you think?
And strictly speaking, you can have two players from out of province, right? You've got the free agent rule that allows you to bring in a player from anywhere, but you've also got the birthright rule, meaning if you were born in Saskatchewan but are living in another province, you can rep. So that's why Ben Hebert could curl for Saskatchewan at the Montana's Brier, regardless of where he's living in Canada. So yeah, it does, but and people, I get so many emails, Rod, where people say, "Bring it back the old way. All four players should be out of the same curling club." Like it used to be when Ernie Richardson was playing. And here's the simple fact of the matter: that's not doable in today's competitive environment around the world. This is the only country on earth in curling that subjects its teams to any kind of residency rules. Sweden, Scotland, Japan, China, Italy, Switzerland. There's no residency rules. As long as you are a resident of that country, you can curl together as a team. So I think we've got to acknowledge that this is not curling like it was 20, 25 years ago, because the rest of the world has an advantage on us when it comes to how teams are formulated. So we've tried to move that conversation along in baby steps, but it's an understanding that there's changes that have to happen if we want to be competitive at the world level. And I think every curling fan across Canada loves seeing the Maple Leaf on the top of the medal podium. And if that's the desire, there has to be an understanding that goes along with that we can't do things the old way.
You were prepped for that question, and I didn't even tell you it was coming. So, bravo, Al. Well done.
Not my first rodeo,
so
Rob.
How did... Yeah, exactly. How did the announcement go over today that Moose Jaw is going to be getting the 2025 Worlds?
It was a great reception to it. I mean, we've had a history in Moose Jaw, as you know, Rod. We've hosted 2 Scotties Tournament of Hearts there in that Moose Jaw Event Center, which is a great building. And the curling community has been very important in other events as well. In 2 weeks, they'll be hosting the Canadian Wheelchair Curling Championship for the 2nd straight year. Curl Moose Jaw is just an outstanding organization, and that city really came to us full barrel when they said they wanted to host this event. There were some competitive bids out there, Rod, and this one, Moose Jaw made it easy for us.
Well, to be honest, what about Assiniboia? A week ago, I guess you announced them as the
Canadian
National
Mixed Championship
for next year. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you've been down. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's the 3rd time in 4 years that Saskatchewan has hosted the Canadian Mixed Curling Championship. This season it was in Swift Current. Last year, Prince Albert, and then in 2025, Assiniboia. And it's really cool, actually. This season, it was a Saskatchewan team skipped by Sean Meacham right out of the Swift Current Curling Club that won. And they'll be going to the World Mixed in Aberdeen, Scotland in the fall. So mixed curling, wheelchair curling, and high performance curling. Saskatchewan's just knocking out of the park right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know if you've been down to see the Assiniboia facilities or not, but I got a commentary that runs on the radio there every day. That town is going off that they've got the national mix coming there next year, and they can host it. They've got the facilities. They've got everything you need. So I'll say bravo and thank you to Curling Canada for doing that. But I got to say this, you guys have designated, now I understand the Scotties was very successful in Calgary too. You're going to the places that love curling. You're not dumb.
Well, listen, I mean, it's ultimately there's a business side to this, right? And events such as the Montana's Brier, the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, they make it possible for us to hold all of our other championships, our Canadian Mixed, our Canadian Seniors, the club championships, the under-21, the under-18s. And so we do have to look at the business side of things when we're awarding these major championships. So, but you know, we are going coastal. I mean, we'll be in Halifax, obviously, in Nova Scotia for 3 big events over the next 18 to 24 months. The Canadian Curling Trials will be in Halifax. The Mixed Doubles Trials will be in Liverpool, Nova Scotia. The Pre-Trials in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. So we are taking events out to Atlantic Canada as well. In fact, the Canadian University and College Championships will be later this month in Fredericton, and the Mixed Doubles Championship. So there is a coastal element, but, you know, these big events, we do have to look at the business side of things. And, yeah, there's a reason we're in Regina and Calgary and places like that. And Kelowna next year for the Montana's Brier.
I'm not sure you mentioned the Women's Worlds in Nova Scotia coming up here with my rooting interest, Rachel Homan, representing the country too, right? I mean, she was just on last week, and what a darling. Oh, my God, I love Rachel Homan. That's my team. That's my team. But I will say this, how are you going to fill the void left behind by Jennifer Jones? You're into, well, people need to know that. They're because she's mean on television isn't the way that she, or the ice, isn't the way that she really is. And I guess I unfairly said, how are you going to fill the void created by Jennifer Jones' retirement? But you know what, Al? I think the right answer is you don't.
She's one of a kind, right? I mean, and that was made clear. Not that it was a surprise, but we saw how the reception was to her in Calgary at the Scotties. So, yeah, that legacy won't be easy to replace. Fortunately, she's still going to be curling in mixed doubles, and she and her husband Brent will be looking at possibly earning a trip to the 2026 Winter Olympics in Cortina. So we're not seeing the last of Jennifer Jones just as a 4-player team, but yeah, it's her legacy speaks for itself, Rod. It's incredible, second to none.
As is yours, my friend. Thank you for coming on and with delivering the news and talking a little curling. And enjoy the weekend, my friend.
One quick update: the World Wheelchair Curling Championship gold medal game. Team Canada, Saskatchewan's own Gil Dash is on that team, playing for gold tonight against Norway, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. There is a YouTube stream of that, so go Canada, go! World Wheelchair gold medal on the line tonight for Team Canada.
Dash for cash or for gold. I like it. Thanks, Al.
Thanks, Rod.
Al Cameron from Curling Canada, our guest.